Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Coffee, where today we're going to be talking about new plot leaks that come from the final Rise of Skywalker trailer. That's today here on Star Wars Coffee. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much, but if you're new to the channel and you're finding me for the first time, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on this video and any other video that you watch, and be sure to hit that notification bell not once, but twice, so that you're always notified the second a new video goes live. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into the Rise of Skywalker plot leaks from the final trailer for the Rise of Skywalker, coming to us from Jedi Paxis. Now, if you haven't heard of the Jedi Paxis leaks, I have a whole playlist and a whole series on that. I even put all of the videos in one video so that you can check that out if you want to, the full movie, if you want to check that out and then come back for this one. But with that being said, let's get into what he has to say about the final trailer. Just a quick spoiler warning, this is the last thing before we get into the Jedi Paxis, but spoiler warning if you don't want to know anything about the videos that I just talked about. So we have the Lucasfilm logo, and here is where we start with. So that helmet that comes from Rey's training sequence at the beginning of the film. So we knew this was going to be Act 1. I talked about this in my review, that this is going to be from the beginning of the film. Jedi Paxis is told that the helmet drops to the ground was being worn by Rey prior to the shot, so it was being used for some part of her training. Continuing on with the trailer, we get Rey running through, she's leaping, and now we're thrown to the Death Star wreckage here. And Rey climbing through the ruins of the Death Star is to get to Palpatine's Wayfinder. So this is probably not going to be in Act 1 as I originally thought in my first reaction to the final trailer. Alright, so let's continue on here. We see Finn looking at this ship here. He is looking at Rey on the ship at 111 as she approaches the Death Star wreckage, so we'll get to 111 a little later. But let's just know here that that is what Finn is looking at. Now let's continue to progress into this. So we see the Resistance here. This is taken from a scene where Rose says goodbye to Finn before leaving for the, as Jedi Paxis calls it, D-Day style invasion on General Pride's Star Destroyer. Continuing on a little farther, we see that Poe and Chewie and Finn are all turning around, and it seems that they are leaving for the assault on Exegol, and that this is going to be starting Act 3. And then we go a little farther, and that ship flying overhead is them leaving for the final battle. And so now we continue. We see Rey standing on some wreckage here of the Death Star. And we see Kylo emerge out looking really freaking awesome. Great cinematography here. And so now we get to this, where we have this ice asteroid base, which is going to be taking place in Act 1, where Poe and Finn obtain information from the First Order mole. So now we're going a little farther in. We see Palpatine's throne here from Act 3 before Palpatine sits on it. So this is pre-Palpatine, where we're just seeing this throne for the first time. Jedi Paxis is told that he starts attached to the mechanical arm, which we're going to see at 158, and then detaches himself before sitting on the throne. So we've seen this in recently leaked screenshots. I did a video about this confirming the plot leak, so you can go check that video out as well if you want to. But I didn't actually throw that image in there because Disney is actually taking that down for copyright. I talked more about that in that video if you want to check that out and learn a little more about that. But continuing on, we go and see some of the Star Destroyers here, and this is supposed to be from the opening of the film, where the Star Destroyers are rising from below Exegol, which again is a planet from the unknown regions that we're going to see. Now we have the Falcon rejoining the final battle, so that tells us that we're in Act 3 with the help of Lando across the galaxy. And on my things you missed in the trailer, if you look closely here, you can see it is Chewie and Lando piloting the Falcon. Jedi Pax is told that this is not technically the Resistance fleet, just a bunch of people individually coming together to stand up to the First Order. Continuing on here, this is the gang preparing to take off to Pisana, which is when Leia sends them to Pisana to meet her contact, which ends up being Lando. Continuing on a little more here, we see some more Death Star 2 wreckage fight, and then we see this explosion. And this is Kijimi being destroyed by one of the Death Star destroyers, which is a group of Death Stars that have Death Star tech and able to obliterate a bunch of planet without actually having the Death Star. So it's just a bunch of Death Star destroyers. So it's blink and you miss it, but you can see the lights from the Death Star destroyer on the left side of the frame during the shot. Okay, continuing on here, we go and we move into the 3PO aspect, where 3PO begins the process of being modified by Babu Frik, which we just saw, to be able to translate the text inscribed on the dagger. And if you're confused on the dagger, because this is the first time I'm mentioning it in this video and you haven't found me before, I talk about that in the Things You Missed video, and that's also explained in the overall plot leak video if you're new to the Jedi Pax's part. But we have, this is going to be the dagger found with Ochi on Pisana. And the following shots we have here of R2 and Chewbacca come from different parts of the movie. So Jedi Paxis isn't sure where those come from, but let's just be clear that those are different from this little part right here, right there. Alright, so now we see the rescue of Chewbacca from Kylo's Star Destroyer prior to being captured, subsequently freed by Hux, who turns out to be the mole. Alright, and so we hear Luke overload here, and then we're seeing some BB-8, and we see Finn, Lando, Chewie, and we're being told here that it is Zori Bliss who is piloting the Y-Wing during this final battle, and we're not quite sure where she gets it from. So continuing on a little farther, we have right here is the initial landing of this invasion scene where we heard earlier where Finn is telling Rose goodbye. We have that, and so going just 5 seconds up here, story lives forever, and now we see Kylo and Rey were in the Emperor's throne room on the remains of the Death Star. This is just after Rey had her dark side Rey vision after touching the Emperor's Wayfinder, and Kylo subsequently destroying it. Now we're moving on a little bit, and 151, this is taken from Rey and Kylo's Force Bond battle. The scene takes place in Kylo's quarters, and Rey is drawn there while the others attempt to rescue Chewbacca. She recovers the dagger as well, which you can see in her hand if you look close enough, and Chewbacca's personal effects get into a battle with Kylo. They are not actually in the same room together. Rey is on Kylo's Star Destroyer, while Kylo is on Kijimi. The object that we see getting destroyed here stands as the melted mask of Vader is resting. So I originally thought that it was the whole armor. It turns out that it's Vader's mask on Kylo's pedestal for it. So Vader's mask gets transported to Kijimi and lands in front of Kylo, and this is how he finds out that Rey is on his ship. So let's continue a little farther here. See Finn and Poe. See some more of the Act 3 fight. And here we see Kylo is on Exegol here, and that this is Kylo right after he fights the Knights of Ren. Alright, so let's continue on a little farther. Right here. This is where Rey's confrontation from Palpatine in Act 3. So this is going to be part of the actual climax of the movie begins. And I just want to clear this up. Jedi Paxis doesn't talk about this, but especially in this shot right here, you can see that this image is light enough to where some people thought that Rey was standing behind like a drop-off where there was like some abyss. That is clearly not the case, as if you look closely, especially on the upper right-hand corner, you can see that there is no drop-off. Alright, going a little further. The ignition of the lightsaber here comes from Rey's confrontation with Palpatine as well, which was obvious if you look at the backdrop. It's the same color, it's the same type. So the voiceover in the scene is not associated with the shot. That's good to know, that's probably important, but taken from lines of Luke and Leia from others spots in the film. That being said, Jedi Paxis is told that evokes a similar idea as Rey is hearing the voices of Jedi past during this final battle with Palpatine. And that is the end of the trailer. Man, I'm so excited for this movie. As I'm watching this trailer again and again, I can't help but be excited about this. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I know a lot of people aren't, but I personally am. Alright, but that wraps up this trailer here. So that wraps things up about what Jedi Paxis has told us. That puts all of these pieces to the puzzle in perspective to the overall film that we're going to be getting in just a couple of months here. December 20th, go buy your tickets. I got mine. I'll be seeing it December 19th at 6 p.m. Be sure to have those reviews out, so be sure to subscribe to check that out. But with that being said, that wraps up this video. Thank you guys for watching. God bless, and may the Force be with you.